Netflix 2022. Strange Things, Vikings, Valhalla, Flash, Cyberpunk, more. If you've just bought one of the best TVs, make sure you've installed the Netflix app for some home entertainment heaven. Netflix in 2022 is going to be tons of fun. Lots of favorites are coming back, including The Umbrella Academy S3, Stranger Things S4, Emily in Paris S2, The Flash S8, Titans S4, Alice in Borderland S2, Locke Key S3, Raising Dion S2 and many more. And there are some exciting Netflix originals making their debut too. Here are the shows and movies we'll be adding to our Netflix watch list this coming year. What's new on Netflix in January and February 2022? If you're a fan of supernatural horror, Archive 81 will be right up your supernatural street. It begins with some damaged videotapes and ends up somewhere very scary. The showrunner for this one is Rebecca Sonnenshine, so we're pretty excited about this one. On January 27th, Netflix debuts The Chosen, a Danish coming-of-age sci-fi series in which a young woman discovers that everything she thought she knew was wrong. It's from the same hands as The Rain, which became one of Netflix's most watched non-English shows other than Squid Game. Also in January, In From the Cold is a gripping thriller about an American single mom whose life is turned upside down by the CIA revealing her past. She was a Russian spy, the product of a classified KGB experiment that gave her special powers. February brings Vikings Valhalla, which chronicles the adventures of some of the most famous Vikings who ever lived. This takes place 100 years after the original Viking series and promises a similar mix of historical authenticity and big beardy men stabbing each other. We're also hoping to see the Sandman, based on the DC comic, in early 2022. New series coming to Netflix in 2022. Do you like zombies? Then you'll love All of Us Are Dead, a series set in a zombie-besieged high school, an army of the dead, Las Vegas, an animated series starring Dave Bautista. If vampires are more your thing, there's First Kill, in which a teenage vampire's first target turns out to be a vampire hunter from a family of celebrated slayers. You'll never guess what happens next. While we're on the subject of the undead, Resident Evil brings the horror of the game to your TV, telling a brand new Resi story that takes place nearly 30 years after the discovery of the T-virus. One of the most intriguing new Netflix series for 2022 is The Cuphead Show, a comedy series featuring the 1930s Fleischer cartoon. Expect surreal adventures and dark comedy. And if you prefer your animations to be gritty and futuristic rather than retro and surreal, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is an animated series developed in conjunction with CD Projekt RED, makers of Cyberpunk 2077. Hopefully that doesn't mean that, like the game, the launch of the animated series will have weird graphics glitches, constant crashes and all the characters exposing themselves for no good reason. Netflix in 2022. More Mike Flanagan and Magic. The Gathering. If like us you sobbed through The Haunting of Hill House, there's a brand new Mike Flanagan series for 2022. The Midnight Club. Written for slightly younger audiences, it's based on the book of the same name in which a group of terminally ill teenage patients share a home and tell each other horror stories. They form a pact. Whoever dies first will contact the rest of the Midnight Club from beyond the grave. We're getting goosebumps already. There's a different kind of supernatural in Magic, The Gathering, coming to Netflix in 2022. The game is a global phenomenon, and now it's coming to Netflix as an animated series. Netflix in 2022. Good Omens. For the Sandman, we're huge fans of fantasy author Neil Gaiman, and the TV adaptations of his work so far have been lots of fun, so we're excited by the Sandman, which promises a rich blend of modern myth and dark fantasy that interweaves contemporary fiction, historical drama and ancient legend. It follows Morpheus, the Dream King, as he attempts to mend the mistakes he's made during his long existence. Once you've watched that, there's even more fantasy to feast upon. The Witcher, Blood Origin takes place 1,200 years before the world of The Witcher and tells the story of how monsters, men and elves were first brought together. Netflix in 2022. New Netflix original movies. Fans of Enola Holmes, the story featuring Sherlock Holmes' sister, will be pleased to know that Enola Holmes 2, The Case of the Left-Handed Lady, is in production for a 2022 release. Millie Bobby Brown is back as Enola, with Henry Cavill and Louis Partridge back too. From sleuthing to slashing, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a direct sequel to the 1974 horror, is due in 2022 too. Once again, Leatherface is at the center of the story as new victims unwittingly disrupt his home. There's not much romance in Leatherface's world, but there's plenty in Love Like the Falling Petals, a new romance film about an aspiring photographer who falls for the beautiful Misaki, only for her to develop a disease that makes her age at a terrifying rate.